Good morning and welcome to the Morning Huddle, your daily dose of change experience. I'm your host, Stef Simich, and today is Team Tuesday. And for this week of the Morning Huddle, we are all focused on getting to know who your host is so that you can have better buy-in on why I'm challenging you to do this thing called change experience. So, when you are in a team, you have three main roles as a team. You're either leading the team, you are a collaborator and a peer in the team, or you are a supporter. You have a boss that you report to in that team. And so, in today's episode of Team Tuesday, and with the theme of this week being getting to know your host, we're going to talk about how I show up in those three roles. So, first and foremost, how I show up as a subordinate team member. So, as a team member who is working with their direct leadership, one of the biggest things that I do is if there isn't a one on one system already set up in the organization, then I do implement that in my role with my leadership team. So, whether I am new to the company or just new to the department, I do ensure that, my direct leader knows that one on ones are important to me. Now, just like almost everyone else making fun work content on TikTok or Instagram, I always make the jokes about loving how my one on one gets canceled. But the truth is, I really value that time. And I value that time because we have a systematic agenda that we follow through, a template that we follow every time. So that is my time to really talk about what I'm doing, the projects that I'm hitting, getting done, the KPIs that we're achieving because of the projects I'm working on. Now, sometimes where that template gets a little fumbly is if your organization already has a template, it may be focused more on line items or KPIs and not really encompassing everything you do in your role and who you are as a person. So I always do take a look at whatever template that my leadership team has, and I ask if I can adapt it or add more to it. So I never take away the items that, they want to talk about on the one-on-one, but as a project manager, I ensure that I, have a template that also lists out the projects I'm working on, how far are we on the project, what are some roadblocks, and I also add a component of who I am as a person. How am I feeling outside of work? What were some of my highs and some of my lows? I do this because it helps my leader create rapport with me if that's not a skill set they already have built in. And so, that is going to be literally one of the biggest ways I show up a little differently. And that is going to be one of the biggest ways that I create experiences that impact change. By having these one-on-ones be more impactful. To assume that every boss everywhere already has the template and the format and the way to lead those meetings, that's really not, that's really thinking very small-minded and not thinking about how we can create, experiences that create change. So if you are already having a one-on-one with your boss and you're not getting what you want out of it, if you are excited that it's canceled every time because it's just a bitch fest, well, I encourage you to develop a template that works for you guys and see if there is something that you can do to help those conversations be more impactful, and hopefully you won't want them canceled as much as you might want today. Now, the second role you can play in a team is a collaborator, right? Like a peer. And so for me, again, in project management, that looks like a lot of different departments. So it's not, I don't have a peer of team members who were all getting the same job done and have the same expectations. My role, I'm a team of one. And so the expectations that are in my department are for just me. So how I create that collaboration across the other departments is the biggest thing I do in the beginning is I get to know people personally. And that's not getting into their hardships and their trauma and asking, about what they like and don't like about work. It's literally as basic as, "Oh, you have a dog? Let's talk about that dog. Oh, you have kiddos and you're doing summer break? Tell me more about that." By spending about, I kid you not, 60 seconds to maybe 2 minutes asking people a little bit about themselves, you will remove so many barriers and so many doors. It only takes 2 minutes out of your day to ask somebody about who they are. Remember to follow up with that. Because then when I'm in these situations where I need something from them, they already have a connection to me. I'm not the girl that's saying, "Hey, I need that spreadsheet," or "Hey, I need the data." but hey, I'm Steph, Steph, the person who we talk about our dogs with, and Steph needs that data. So let me get to it, get that to her. I know we want to think that people will just do their jobs to just do their jobs, but unfortunately, that's not a reality. And we work harder for people who we feel care about us personally. So the best way to make an impact when you are in a team is spend 1 to 2 minutes getting to know your peers, and then spend 1 to 2 minutes asking about those things. They will naturally build a rapport with you and naturally get to know a little bit more about you. And through that natural relationship building that you're doing, you can create these systems within work where you guys show up for each other because you know a little bit more about each other. Another thing in these conversations is by you having those questions, you're going to open some back and forth banter. Within that back and forth banter, of course, there's going to be natural work conversations that progress. And for me, what I have found is in those natural conversations, getting to know people, I have actually been able to show up as a more educated, more prominent version of myself. I don't know if those are the right words, but essentially by having these, individual connections with people, they've been able to see who I am and what I bring to the table. And what I love about that is then when we're in meetings or we're in situations and I bring up solutions, you're not questioned as to why you brought up that solution, or people don't immediately have resistance to change with you, again, because you have built that rapport. Lastly, your role in a team could be the leader. You could be the person who's responsible to, for the metrics that your team produces, the work they produce, the follow up that is needed to get that achieved. And so your role in there, it's similar to what I said with the one-on-one. My role when I support a team is to communicate, communicate, communicate. Literally, this is the one thing I hear from, and I don't care what your industry is. When I have talked to somebody in your company of any sort, everybody talks about how communication is literally the downfall of their success, the profitability, the relationship building, culture, everything. If we can't communicate effectively, then it's all for naught. And so that is a way that I show up and I create change experience when I'm leading a team, is by really improving and elevating the level of communication. So, when I have a team of more than 5 or 6 people and they are, and I have to get information to them, they get a video of the training that I'm providing. They get a PDF that has the steps and screenshots. And then I always have a call as well where they can open questions. So by having 3 formats that I use every time I communicate, that is allowing me to hit a majority of the communication styles. So again, that's video training that is accessible later, that has an audio part to it, that is a printout of the steps that are needed for any kind of training or process change. And then lastly, having those open hours or, a town hall of sorts so that people can ask their questions about the process change or the new training initiative that we're doing, and they can better understand why the change is happening. And so, those are the 3 main ways that I create change experience in my everyday life. And just another reason why I want to encourage you to believe in this principle called change experience, become a devoted listener to the Morning Huddle show, and really learn ways to impact change in your own life. Until next time, this has been the Morning Huddle, your daily dose of change experience. I'm your host, Stef Simich, reminding you that change starts with each and every one of us. Are you ready to experience the change?